I want to share something personal with you, something that not even my parents know. My freshman year of college, I failed 3 classes. I'm a first-generation student who did not know what she was doing. I'd go around my dorm floor asking people what classes they were taking and enroll in what I thought I needed. From that, I took too many classes, and I was burnt out, overwhelmed, and starting to become depressed. Everyone seemed to be handling their work so well, and I was just struggling like so much. I didn't know what to do, so I had to look for help. I restarted therapy, and my therapist thought I might have ADHD. It never resonated, but I decided to look into it. I talked to my friends and family, and my stepdad, who was diagnosed earlier that year with ADHD, thought I should just double check and see a psychiatrist. I booked the appointment, I see the psychiatrist, and I got diagnosed, and it changed my life completely. So let me clarify. What is ADHD? ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Simply put, it's a neurodevelopmental disorder, and it means that our brains are wired differently. The ADHD brain has naturally lower levels of dopamine, so it's constantly on the search for more. People can see this as a defect, but I just see it as a part of who we are. Now, you may be thinking like I did. Why did it take me until college to get diagnosed? Well, that can be summed up in one word: overlooked. Historically, ADHD was viewed as a male disorder. Although today we know it affects all genders, there's just less research focused on women. Most people associate ADHD to hyperactivity, not recognizing the fact there are 3 types. I'll walk you through them. First is hyperactive. This can be seen as fidgeting, excessive talking, interrupting others. Second, inattention. So that's forgetfulness, daydreaming, and disorganization. And third, what I like to call the combo meal, which is both combined. And hyperactivity is most commonly found with people assigned male at birth, and it's easier to recognize since it's external and physical. While inattention is most commonly found with people assigned female at birth, but it's harder to see since it's internal. Early research started in the 1960s up until the decade, and it was mostly focused on male presentation. Women and girls were left out of clinical trials, and the reportings from these clinical trials didn't represent the female experience. From that, there was a generation of girls not being diagnosed, delaying support. And it brings me to my main point. Throughout the generations, women and girls have lived their lives without recognizing why. Today, we recognize that there's a diagnosis ratio of 4 boys for every 1 girl. And the average diagnosis age is 7 for boys, while compared to girls, it's 12. And at this time, puberty starts to kick in, so it can feel really hard, complicated to be around, so it's very easy that these signs can be misinterpreted for something else. Doctors, parents, even teachers can miss these signs, contributing them to personality. And they can say things like, oh, she's just hormonal, or oh, she's just so careless, how can she be responsible? Oh, she's not gonna be able to do anything, she's so disorganized. And you may think these girls are brushing this off, but really they're internalizing this, thinking that there's something wrong with them, thinking they're the problem. And you might ask, what do they do about it? They hide their feelings and suppress. Because why? They don't want to feel judged. No one wants to feel judged. And as a result, these women grow into adults, and life always gets harder. And from that, more responsibilities carry on, and things can feel impossible, which have led to serious mental health problems. Women with undiagnosed ADHD have a tendency to go towards emotion-focused coping mechanisms. Basically, they use drugs, sex, alcohol, and nicotine to manage symptoms and have an increased risk of developing a mood or personality disorder, dysregulated eating such as binging or bulimia, and higher rates of self-harm and suicide. It's gotten to the point that we seriously need to take help. But let me make this real for you. Someone I want to mention is Mel Robbins. Who here knows who she is? She's a former lawyer, podcaster, successful public speaker, and even has done her own TED Talk. And she has ADHD, but she wasn't diagnosed till 47 years old. So the story goes, she took her son to the doctor. He was having some trouble in school. She wanted to see what was happening. Then they get testing, comes out, he has ADHD. So she sits with his primary care doctor. They're looking through the report, and she's like, wow, I'm really resonating with these findings. And the doctor looks at her, he's like, you didn't know you have ADHD? She was shocked, which led her to go see her own doctor, and she got diagnosed. The majority of her life, she struggled with procrastination, disorganization, and self-doubt, and was constantly treated for anxiety. And she always felt like she couldn't fix what was going on. Thankfully, from her diagnosis, it gave her the clarity and strength to work with herself, and now she's doing all these amazing things. I love seeing her in the media. It makes me feel so seen because I resonate so deeply with her. I struggled for so long, never understanding why. I have inattentive ADHD, and it was invisible for me for 19 years. In elementary school, I did okay, and I was put in extra help. And they constantly were testing me for like dyslexia, but nothing came up, so I made my way through, eventually got into the normal classes. Then in middle school, age 12, I failed 6th grade math, and I started to become depressed and struggle with my mental health very seriously, which led me to therapy. I was treated for depression and anxiety, but it never really sat right with me. I didn't feel like that was the whole thing. I was labeled as quiet, disorganized, lazy, careless, even airheaded. At times when I would misplace things, I would hear people say like, oh, she's just a girl. And I always felt like, oh, why are you saying that? I don't like that. It made me so uncomfortable. It got to the point that I thought I was the problem, and I needed to fix myself. So I'd constantly watch self-help YouTube videos, try to get my life together, but I never really understood why I couldn't do it like everyone else. Then I make my way to high school. I do fine. And then I'm so excited to start college. I'm here at Rutgers. And then boom, fail 3 classes. But this was the pivoting point because I got diagnosed. My diagnosis at first was very hard to accept. I was in denial. I didn't think it was real, and I decided to do more research. From that, I felt seen in a way I never had before, and it allowed me to accept so many things about myself. At first, I was like, wow, it was this reassurance and relief that I never felt before, like, I'm not crazy. It was insane. And then at the other hand, I was grieving. I was grieving all the times that I was struggling without an answer, being so hard on myself. And it just went unnoticed. And now as a psych major, I'm like, this is so textbook. Why couldn't people see this? And it just makes me feel so heavy. But thankfully, I've learned a few things. What I learned is that my brain is differently, and I can't judge myself based off other people. I measured my self-worth based off of people who didn't have my struggles, so I constantly felt inadequate. So I was trying to fit into this mold that just didn't work for me. But now I've learned to release this pressure, and I work to achieve my same goals, but in a way that works with me, not against me. It's about recognizing myself and having a better relationship with myself, which I did get. And now, from this, I call myself a little neurodiva. Basically, all that means is that I accept my brain for what it is and be who I am to shine as I want to. And when life gets really hard, I tell myself, I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl. It's my way of releasing life's pressure to not be so hard on myself. Okay, I know. This isn't a therapy session. This is a TED Talk. But this is my life, my truth, and my story. And I believe being vulnerable and honest is the way we get through life. Inspired by Brené Brown, I think vulnerability is strength and not weakness. It gives us power. So I'm here telling you this because these are real women who live real lives, which could be your mother, your sister, your siblings, roommates, co-workers, students, people in your lives who could be silently struggling without understanding why. So that's why let's raise awareness, be supportive and empathetic. What do these three things mean? Raising awareness means being there, getting educated. What are the signs? What does it look differently for women with ADHD? And being honest and recognizing the fact it's a real condition. Second is support, being there for each other, creating community, creating spaces that are judgment-free to uplift each other. And third, empathy, looking outside of yourself, looking outside of these actions and being there and validating each other for these experiences. And we need to just be there for each other to create this sense of community. Because with these three things, we could be all together and thrive. I stand before you as living proof that with awareness, support, and empathy, women can do whatever they want to thrive. Like how I decided to do this speech. And because by detecting this earlier, we can help women significantly improve the outcomes of their life by avoiding academic and career underachievement, relationship difficulties, and mental health issues. So I stand before you telling you this because I want you to feel powered, seen, and understood. And by sharing this, I hope that you can understand and hear me. Thank you so much and for listening to me and letting me have your attention.